Wild Talents, by Charles Hoyfort, Chapter 27. Upon November 29th, 1931, died a wild talent. It was wild of origin, but was of considerable development. See the New York Herald Tribune, November 30th, 1931. John D. Reese had died in his home in Youngstown, Ohio. Mr. Reese was a healer. He was not a divine healer. He means much to my expression that the religionists have been permitted to take unto themselves much that is not theirs exclusively. Once we heard only of divine healers. It is something of a start of a divorcement that may develop enormously. Sometime I am going to loot the records of saints for suggestions that may be of value to bright atheists willing to study and experiment. Reese had never studied medicine. The only instruction he had ever received was from an aged healer in the mountains of Wales when he was a boy. Physicians could not explain his art, and, after satisfying themselves that he was not a charlatan, would shrug and say simply that he had divine power. But Reese never described himself as a divine healer, and, though by methods no less divine than those of the Salvation Army and other religious organizations, he made a fortune out of his practices, he was associated with no church. He was about 30 years old when he became aware of his talent. One day, in the year 1887, a man in a rolling mill fell from a ladder and was injured. It was a severe spinal strain, according to a physician. Mr. Reese stooped and ran his fingers up and down the man's back. The man smiled, and while the physician and the mill hands gaped in wonder, he rose to his feet and announced that he felt strong again, with not a trace of pain. He went back to work, and Mr. Reese's reputation as a healer was spread abroad. Then there were thousands of cases of successful treatments. Hans Wagner, shortstop of the Pittsburgh Pirates, was carried from the baseball field one day. Something in his back had snapped, and it seemed that his career had ended. He was treated by Reese, and within a few days was back shortstopping. When Lloyd George visited the United States after the war, he shook hands so many times that his hand was twisted out of shape. Winston Churchill, in a later visit, had what was said to be an automobile accident, and said that he was compelled to hold his arm in a sling. But Lloyd George was so cordially greeted that he was maimed. Doctors said that only months of rest and massage could restore the cramped muscles. Reese shook hands with the statesman, pressed gently, and then harder, disengaged their hands with a wrench, and Lloyd George's hand was strong again. One of the most important particulars in this story of the talent, or of witchcraft, that was put to work, is that probably it was a case of a magician who was taught. Reese, when a boy, received instructions in therapeutic magic, and then, in the stresses of making a living, forgot, so far as went the knowledge of his active consciousness. But it seems that subconsciously a development was going on, and suddenly, when the man was 32 years of age, manifested.